Hey guys, 420 Hey Asian Boy. Now, I often get asked, what's the most destructive drug you've done, or what have been the most destructive drugs that I've ever done in my life. And by destructive, I mean destructive to my body, destructive to my mental health, or destructive as far as my behavior to my friends and family around me. And so I've been asked this question so many times so that I've decided to make this video. So here goes. So we're going to start from the most destructive drugs to the least destructive drugs. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Starting with alcohol. As it may surprise some of you, alcohol has had the most destructive impact on mine and on my family and friends' lives. I struggled with alcohol abuse during most of my drug addiction days, as it was always just there, available in stores and at parties. In the winter of 2019, I would come home from work and I would drink 6 double shots of vodka mixed with cranberry before going out drinking with my friends. And then I would get picked up by my friend, and me and him would pregame on our way to meet up with our other friends, and we would drink some more. I would come home that night and piss on my mom's floor. I was so blackout drunk that I literally had no idea what I was doing in that moment. I remember hearing one of my friends quite often puking and retching in the bathroom of another friend's apartment while the rest of us were drinking, as he would often have too much to drink. And this guy was known for handling his liquor, as he would drink 3 bottles of liquor to the face before going out and partying with the rest of us. Quite often, I would get so drunk that I would have to force myself to throw up at some point so I wouldn't appear as trashed when I came home to my mom. And because I had pretty much for certain drank above the limit of what a person should drink. That's 6 double shots at home, 6 to 12 beers when my friend was taking me to our other friend's apartment to party some more, along with 60 beers and a couple or several more shots of liquor. So alcohol has been way more damaging than heroin. Not to mention all the damage I was doing to my liver with all the drinking. I became such an alcoholic that I became physically dependent on it, and as alcohol withdrawals can kill you, when I began cutting back, I still, to this day, would drink a whole 6-pack of beer just to keep me out of withdrawal. I've cut back a lot since, and am now down to only 2 beers a day. But those 2 beers are crucial to me. Second most damaging drug, I would say, would be DXM, or dextromethorphan, which is found in cough syrups and cough medicines. The reason why I consider it a very destructive drug was because I found it almost as addicting as heroin. Although I didn't have it every day in the beginning, I would constantly obsess over my experiences, and eventually it got to a point to where I was popping 12 to 32 triple C's a day, and it got to a point to where I went on a big binge that almost killed me had I not called 911, and had they not shot me up with a medicine to reverse the overdose of 40 pills that I took that night. But my stomach lining was temporarily torn, and there were 5 permanent holes in my stomach. Now, the reason that I didn't put DXM on top, even though it almost killed me, was because It honestly is very hard to overdose on DXM. And for a while, during my DXM addiction, everything seemed to be going well, up until the near death Triple C binge. Now, number 3, we have Ritalin. I went on several benders of Ritalin, and often while on the Ritalin or when coming off of it, I became too much for myself or my friends or my family to handle me, depending on where I was when I was on or off the Ritalin. The come down was very unpleasant, and how do you handle a Ritalin come down? You don't handle it. It's more, how do you handle not handling it? I remember quite often starting many arguments with friends or family whenever I didn't have my Ritalin on me. Sometimes arguing to the point of me running outside and screaming at the top of my lungs outside in my driveway. I became so addicted to the pills that I would take sometimes up to 100 milligrams of Ritalin, and one time even more than that, to which I later learned was very irresponsible and was asking for an early death by taking that much Ritalin. Like, if I wanted that feeling, I might as well just do crack, which I'm not recommending either, to get the same feeling, but is safer for your heart and liver. And at number 4, we have Benadryl, or DPH, whatever you guys like to call it. Now, in reality, DPH is much more damaging than Ritalin, but the reason I put it after Ritalin is because I didn't use it very much, like not enough to cause long-lasting damage to myself, although the trips were always very unpleasant, which is why I rate it as a damaging drug. I mostly used it in tandem with other drugs, such as DXM, but I still rate it up there just to let you guys know all the damage it can cause. It has the potential to traumatize you permanently, cause permanent HPPD, and every time after using it, I felt dumb and had a little trouble balancing for the next few days, which is why I still rate it a damaging drug that I've done, even though I haven't done it very often. Next up, we got PCP. Now, I smoked and snorted PCP in order to try to get off of meth. Now, that drug fucked with my mind more than it did anything else, as the trips were often so wild and profound that it made me question my non-tripping reality a little bit too much. Like one trip in particular, which was set up like the Truman Show, really fucked me up bad, so that I felt nervous interacting with normal everyday people for fear that they might be triple agents. And for a while I was using it, I was often in a constant state of depersonalization, and I suffered mild HPPD. Next, we have DPT, or dipropyltryptamine. Maybe that should have been before PCP, although I chose to put it at number 6 because I only did it once. But the one time I did it, it was pretty bad. Although it started out good at first, and I don't really want to blame the drug because the reason the trip turned nasty was because I got into a really heated argument over text with a former friend of mine, where she told me that she hoped that the black tar heroin would clog up my veins and kill me. And she called me all sorts of bad names. So, while on a psychedelic trip, it made my emotions very intense. I went from intense euphoria and bliss to intense anger and just a crazed, drug-induced state. I began running all around my house, cackling. My mom and sister told me that I was totally unreachable, and they, along with my dog, had to flee to live with my grandparents for the night, because who knew what I was capable of while on this drug. But yeah, all this probably would have never happened had I not gotten into a heated argument while tripping, so I don't really want to blame the drug entirely. Now, the video is getting pretty long, so I better wrap it up. Next up, we got fentanyl. Now, fentanyl was a drug that I eventually began using regularly with no problem, but in the early stages when I used it off and on, it almost cost me my life a couple of times. And even when I did get addicted to it to the point to where my body needed it, the withdrawals would begin within 4 hours, whereas with heroin, I would need it every 6 hours. So, yeah, during my days as an opioid addict, I tended to turn to Fent whenever I did not have much money, but in general, I liked heroin better. Now, as for the withdrawals of fentanyl weren't nearly as bad as heroin, but maybe it's because I did not use it as much. Now, finally, we've got heroin. Now, it may surprise you all that I put heroin at the bottom of the list, but that was because I used it very responsibly. Like, contrary to what you might think, I rarely had to steal from people in order to get my fix, and I never ended up in the hospital because of a heroin overdose. And now it may surprise some of you, but when I got together with my heroin buddies to get high versus when I got together with my alcohol buddies, whereas with alcohol the goal was to have more and more and to get as drunk as possible, whereas with heroin, my friends and I were very conserving with it, and the goal was to get high on as little amount as possible, as heroin is very easy to overdose on, which is a miracle that I never had a fatal overdose on heroin. I just achieved very deep nods, but never had to go to the hospital for it. But the reason I rate heroin still a destructive drug that I've done was because of the intense withdrawals. I remember painfully tossing and turning in bed in a puddle of my own sweat during withdrawals, which was part of what made heroin so hard to quit. Well, the main reason, which is why I'm still on Suboxone to these days. Well, guys, if you made it this far, I'm happy, and I hope you guys stay safe and learned a lot from this video. So, if you're struggling with any substance, don't be afraid to reach out. My Snapchat is in my YouTube bio, so feel free to add me or comment if you ever need to talk. And just know that I always approach drugs with a non-biased view, so I won't judge you even if you have to shoot up mid-conversation with me. I would love to help any other struggling addicts out there who need help. And I'll see you guys in the next video.